we're here because we believe in building these schools for the future. Making sure that this school, which has been here for 16 years, is here for 60 years, not just 16. Can I just say this? Can I just say this? When I look across Queensland, I look across Australia, what I believe we need to be doing is building the schools of the future. What we need to be doing is making sure that our schools have all the facilities they need for the future. We need to be making sure that this great Australian state school has all the facilities it needs to make sure that all those young people I've just seen here this morning are getting everything they need for the future as well. That's the Australian way, and that's the Queensland way. Now let's get down to some facts here. Right here across Australia, we've been investing in schools like this. The Australian government has been investing in this state high school. We've helped build the new science centre. We've invested some 125 new computers into the high school. And I'm told from the kids I've just spoken to coming down here this morning that this has made this state high school even better than it was before. That's the practicality of building the schools of the future. Now, the story here for this state high school is like the story we see right across the nation. Your Australian Labor government has been investing in schools like this right across the nation. We have been investing in our schools to make sure they've got the trades training centres of the future, to make sure they've got the school libraries of the future, to make sure that they've got every single facility that they need for the future. Across Australia, we will now have a network of 500 trades training centres. That's the Labor way. Across Australia, we have a network now of more than 500 new science and language centres. That's the Labor way. Across Australia now, we have built more than 3,000 new school libraries. That's the Australian Labor way. And across Australia, we have put 1 million new computers into the high schools. That's the Australian Labor way. And do you know what it's all about? It's about making sure that every Australian young person has a first-class education. We're not into the business of saying, you're going to a poor school, you shouldn't have the best facilities that the country can provide. We believe that every school, rich, poor, in between, should have the best facilities for their kids for the future. We in Australia believe in a fair go for all Australians, not just some Australians. And that starts in our school system. And it starts here at Nyanda State High School. If you don't do it here, you're not doing it anywhere. And that's what a fair go is all about. Now, friends, here in Queensland, we've had laid out the plans which Mr. Abbott wants to see implemented for the nation. Mr. Newman's government, which believes in its own three-word slogan, cut, cut and cut, what we see across Queensland today is a program to cut and abolish 50 Queensland state schools. I don't think that's right. Do any of you think it's right? No! Do you think it's right to privatise school playing fields? No! Do you think it's right to shut down a school which has been barely going for 16 years? No! Well, that's what Campbell Newman has done, and he belongs to a party called the Liberal National Party. And guess what? It's not just a single story. There's another bloke that some of you may remember whose name was Geoffrey Kennett. 50 schools have been being shut down in Queensland. In Kennett's Victoria, they shut down 300 schools and sacked 9,000 teachers. That's the Liberal National Party way. Do you want that for Queensland? Do you want that for Australia? Well, that's what Mr. Abbott is offering right across the country. The alternative is us building the schools of the future, building the industries and the jobs of the future, building the education system of the future, the health and hospital system of the future, the national broadband network of the future. I can see a few broadband supporters out there. and to build a clean energy future for all Australians. Building step by step, block by block, brick by brick, to build Australia's future. The alternative we see is cut, cut and cut again. Now, politics and elections are about choices, and that's what we are facing on September the 7th, a clear choice. A clear choice between whether you're going to build the schools of the future or tear down the schools of the future. That is simply the choice which every Australian and every Queenslander faces. Let's look at the question of priorities. The priorities which Mr. Abbott is now talking about have to do with his version of paid parental leave. I don't know if you've studied the detail of this, but Mr. Abbott, his belief in a fair go is that a certain select group of families over there should be given $75,000 worth of paid parental leave. $75,000 over there to that select group of families, while ripping $15,000 out of the pocket of 1.3 million families for the school kids bonus. Do you think that's a fair go for all? No. How many of you here get the school kids bonus? 1.3 million families across Australia get the school kids bonus. Across the period of a family with kids at school, that means $15,000 worth of support. Do Australian families need $15,000 worth of support for their kids at school? Yes. Do you need help and support buying the uniforms? Yes. Do you need help and support buying the school books and equipment that you need for your kids at school? Does $15,000 go a long way? Yes. Well, let me tell you what Mr. Abbott's priorities are here. Over there, if you're on $150,000 a year, he's going to give you $75,000 of paid parental leave with this hand and take your $15,000 from 1.3 million Australian families with the other hand. Is that a fair go for all? No. That's the alternative, friends. It's very clear and simple. On the one hand, a paid parental leave scheme which gives $75,000 to certain families and ripping out a payment of $15,000 for 1.3 million families on the other. I don't believe that's a fair go. I don't believe Australians believe that's a fair go. I don't think it's the right way for Australians. Our Australian Labor government has a completely different view. We believe in reasonable and affordable paid parental leave. We do not believe in one which is unaffordable, unfair, uncosted, and frankly one which is going to be offered at the expense of basic services for all Australian families. Friends, paid parental leave is one symbol. It is a critical symbol. It's a symbol of the Liberal Party's version of fairness and what stands in contrast, our version of what is a fair go for all. When you look at how that works out across Australia, this payment of $75,000 for paid parental leave, and you contrast it with what's being offered through the school kids bonus, guess how many kids across the country are affected by this? 700,000 odd in New South Wales, 570,000 odd in Victoria, 510,000 kids in Queensland. Then on top of that, more than 200,000 or 300,000 in WA, more than 200,000 in South Australia, and you have also tens and tens of thousands in the territories as well in Tasmania. These are all Australian working families who depend on the school kids bonus. That is where our priorities lie. Mr. Abbott's priorities lie on how I can give $75,000 worth of paid parental leave to this person over here. That's the basic difference. So we've talked so far about paid parental leave. We've talked so far also about the impact on the school kids bonus, which is going to rip away from all Australians. Let me now tell you about the Better Schools Plan. The Better Schools Plan, put together by all those folks who worked on the Gonski Committee of Review, is a pathway to the future. It is a pathway for all schools for the future. It provides $15 billion worth of investment, additional investment in all schools across the country. Let me give you an example of what lies here. At this school at Nyanda, you would be looking at an additional investment of more than $1 to $2 million in this school, building Nyanda's future as opposed to ripping it down. That's the big difference. Across the nation, our investment is $15 billion. Mr. Abbott says he's going to rip $8 billion out of that. I don't think that's a fair thing. Do you think it's a fair thing? No. If you're going to build Australia's schools for the future, you've got to invest in their future. And so right across Australia, that means taking, in an average Queensland school, by the time the Better Schools plan is implemented, we'll be providing an average $1 million plus investment to every Queensland school. Mr. Abbott will be taking that $1 million plus out of each of those Queensland schools. Is that a fair thing? No! It's the same in New South Wales and it's the same in Victoria. There's a bit of a con going on as well. He says that, well, he's sort of for a bit of the Better Schools plan. Well, can I just say, you do the numbers. Look at the fine print. He says he's taking $8 billion out of what we are putting in. That is simply shortchanging the school kids for Australia's future. So friends, whether it's the school kids bonus, whether it's our investment in the new libraries, the new science centres, whether it's our investment in the new trades training centres, the new computers in schools, whether it's our investment in the Better Schools plan for all Australian schools, we are building the future for every Australian kid. We believe that's what responsible Australian government should do. Mr. Abbott's priority, by contrast, is whenever we build and invest in a school, he takes away and gives to people a $75,000 cheque for their paid parental leave. For each and every one of you here today, as you approach the election, let us be very clear about what that alternative is. It's about a fair go for every Australian. I see people here this morning who have had their kids at this school throughout the last 5 years, from their 8th grade to their 12th grade. I spoke to a young woman over here in year 12. I said, what's it been like here at Nyanda State School? And she said that this has been a great school because what they're able to get here is decent individual attention to make sure that the kids at Nyanda have the best possible future for themselves. I've listened to their stories about what they like about this school. They value this school. We value our schools. Communities value their schools. Australian Labor governments values their schools. Why doesn't Mr. Abbott value our schools? So as we approach the 7th of September, there is going to be a fundamental choice for us all. Are you going to support building Australia's future? Yes. Are you going to support building the industries and jobs for Australia's future? Yes. Are you going to support building the school system we need for Australia's future? Yes. Are you going to support building the hospitals and health system we need for Australia's future? Yes. Are you going to be out there supporting and building the clean energy future we need for all Australians? Yes. And are you going to be supporting a broadband network for every Australian family for the future? That's our vision for the future. Building the future as opposed to one which says cut, cut and cut. So when we come to September 7th, in the last 3 weeks of this election campaign, we're going to be talking to groups like this right across Australia. You know, good folks here in Queensland, close to where I've grown up, they've got the same aspirations for their kids as anyone else in the country. The stories are the same. People look in the eyes of their kids and say, there's my future. There's what I want for this young person. I want her to be a doctor. I want this person over here to be a first-class nurse. I want this young boy over here to be a first-class sports star. I want this person to be a researcher in molecular science. I want this person over here to be a vet. I want this person over here to make sure that they become the best possible school teacher they can. And I want this young person over here to make sure, that's you, mate. I want that young person over there to make sure that he becomes the best PE instructor the country's ever seen, training our athletes of the future. That's our vision. That's our vision for every young person in the country. They're our future. They're the hopes of us all, but they're the hopes of our parents in particular. They're the hopes which are alive in the dreams of every young person as well. What you want to be, what you want to be, what you want to be. And the job of government is to join hands with you to make that possible for the future. That's what we're on about, building a future for you. Because if we do that, we're building a future for Australia. Friends, I need your support to build Australia's education future. Do I have your support to build Australia's education future? Do I have your support to save this great Australian state high school? Are we going to take Tony Abbott on and expose his cuts? Are we going to take Tony Abbott on and make sure that every Australian family, every Australian school knows the truth of what he intends for their school?
Yes.
Friends, I believe that together we will harness the people power of Australia. There's a whole bunch of folks out there out against us. If I read today's Courier Mail, every front page of the Courier Mail says death, doom and disaster to the Australian Labor Party. A very reliable journal of record, the Courier Mail. Can I just say, way above the media rock, way above the avalanche of Liberal Party advertising on the news, across the television screens, way above what you will see with day after day, people telling you what the polls say here and the polls say there. I believe in the power of the Australian people.
Hear, hear.
I believe in the power of the Queensland people.
Hear, hear.
I believe in the power of the people here at this community at Nyanda State High School. Together, we locals in this community, Queenslanders binding together, Australians coming together with the voice of people power, we can provide each of the 300 young people here at this high school with the future that they want, a future we all want, a future which Australia wants. I thank you this morning.